Hey, welcome back, and thanks for tuning in and watching the Cypress Sports Show, brought to you by Coach's Corner. I'm Jeff Russell, here with
Mark Slevcove.
Hey, this is what we got this week. We're going to get a quick playoff preview from KTLA sports reporter Rahshaun Haylock. He'll break down our division in football and kind of give us an insight on what to expect. We'll also check in with Coach Crooks on this week's game and talk to Mr. Pfeiffer in our segment, Would You Rather? Coach, football, tough end. It did drop us down a little bit, kind of gave us a good seating in that. What do we got moving forward?
Well, football did lose to Tustin, who was the better team last Friday night. That puts us one game behind, and now we get to focus on our first CIF opponent, Rio Mesa. We lost 49-17 to Tustin. We finished the regular season at 6-4 and league at 4-1, good for second place in the final season of Empire League play. That does end a 4-year run of league titles. Tustin was simply too much for us to stop. We do move on to the CIF Division 6 playoffs. Looks like we got the number 2 seed in that bracket, taking on Rio Mesa of Oxnard on Friday night at Handel Stadium. Hope everyone gets out there. Get your tickets on GoFan. Girls flag football finished their inaugural season going 8-2 in the Empire League, good for second place behind Crean Lutheran. The girls finished their season last Friday night in the LA Chargers tournament, losing to Mater Dei in the quarterfinals 22-21 as Mater Dei scored on the 2-point conversion at the end of the game to finish off the Centurions. Thanks to Coach Kruger, Coach Matlock, Coach Cusimano, Coach Brenda for all the dedication to the girls and getting the program off of the ground this year. We look forward to it continuing to grow next season for flag football. Boys water polo team won its final game in league over Tustin 14-7 last Wednesday. Unfortunately, the boys missed the playoffs by one game. They finished the season at 7-14. Thanks to Coach Julia and Coach V for stepping up into their new roles this year. Girls tennis played in the Empire League finals last Thursday and Friday. Mia Thomas finished in third place for the singles, and Ifoma Ibe and Aaron Kim were runners-up in the doubles tournament. And then Elizabeth Cruz and Isampella Gavris finished in third place in the doubles. This week, the team opens up CIF play on Wednesday against Agora. And if we win that, they'll play again on Friday in the second round. Girls golf team competed in the CIF Division I Team Championships Monday out at Los Serranos. And 3 girls will be playing in the CIF SCGA qualifier on Thursday at Tuckwit Golf Course in beautiful Beaumont. And cross country heads to the Empire League finals Tuesday. So when you watch this, it will have already participated in that out at Craig Park as the team and individuals look to qualify for CIF and maybe win a league title.
Yeah, very cool. Again, get those tickets on GoFan for football. There's no cash box or anything at the game for CIF. Get there early. Be ready to go for that game. Big game to start it off. Depending on who you talk to, right? I'm hearing Max Preps, and those things have Cypress as an underdog at home.
Wow.
I wouldn't think that. But I'm feeling like they're in good shape. Coach Feldman's going to get them going.
A whole week to prepare. Break it all down. We got them right where we want them.
Yeah, speaking of breaking it down and having them right where we want them, it is time to check in with Coach Crooks on this week's game. Coach Crooks, what do we have?
All right, we're out here with Coach Crooks. Round 1 of the CIF Division 6 playoffs coming up Friday night at Handel against Rio Mesa of Oxnard. Coach, what do we know about Rio Mesa, and how are we going to attack these guys?
Well, it's Rio Mesa is a good team. They're coming obviously from Oxnard, going to travel a long way to come to us. And we know about them is everyone in that area, everyone in that league that they're in, they're a competitive team. They're 7-3. Everybody opens up and throws the ball spread out there, and also is a 3-3-5 defense. So, we're looking at film and other things, comparable opponents of what we do defensively, of an even front, and what we do with offensively and stuff like that. So putting together a game plan and getting ready for the first round.
If you had to compare them to a team that we played this year, who would they be most comparable to?
I'd say Crean Lutheran, who's also in our division as well. They're a pretty comparable team, but you never know in the playoffs. It's win or go home. So every game's a challenge, and we're looking forward to it and just making sure that, we read our keys and do everything we job and just do our job.
Are the Centurions going to be ready to play Friday night?
We're going to be definitely ready. We're excited to be in the playoffs. It's a second chance for us, and we love being in a phase 3 of our season. That's one of our goals we have, is to getting to the playoffs, and we're here, and you got to win the week. That's what we got to do.
All right, thank you, Coach. Good luck Friday night.
All right, thank you.
All right, thanks, Crooksy. Now it is time to get with Mr. Pfeiffer in our Subs and Grubs segment. Would you rather? Sean, what is the topic for this week?
Listen, we went out. There's some exciting stuff going on in sports right now. We got a little baseball going on. Huh? Check it out. World Series. We wanted to know, would you rather see your team go to the World Series and win, but watching it from television, watching it from home with your friends, with your family? Or would you rather have VIP, front row? It's like a mirror. Front row seats, VIP, Game 7, but they lose. I was shocked and surprised by I thought there would be one answer, right? You got to see who the true fans were. Delgado, we see your true colors, man. What do you think? What do you think the dominant response was?
I'm going to say people would rather see him win.
Yeah, right. It's your team. That's you bleed the Angels, right? You bleed the Diamondbacks, right? You bleed these teams. You want them to go.
You can always run up and down the street banging pots and pans. I mean,
Pots
if they
and
win,
pans.
you don't have to. Is that just when you were younger? Maybe that.
Maybe
Not
just
anymore.
when you're young.
All right, let's check it out.
Cypress High School here, Coach Feldman. Ford Wine here, AP over athletics, varsity tennis. Lois, check it out. You recognize these faces. Number 1 fan, Sports Weekly, Mr. Leptic. We got our counselor extraordinaire, Ms. Binford. Coach Mitri, sending 3 athletes, CIF. Woo!
And
Golf.
team,
And
team.
Cheer, varsity, here we go. Would you rather watch your team go to the World Series and win, watching television, or have VIP front row seats at Game 7 and watch them lose?
I want to go VIP Game 7.
You're so selfish. You just
Just because I don't think anybody else is going to say that. So,
boom. No, VIP.
VIP all the way.
Want them to win.
You want them to win.
Want them to win.
They're your team.
I had to think about it, but I want them to win. That's more important than me being there.
It was kind of that front row was, but the whole team winning.
You get the experience if you're there, so that's pretty tempting. But if you're really about the team, I'd probably rather see them win. But if I'm like so-so and I'm not that into it, then I want to be front row and enjoy that part of the experience. So if it's truly my team, I'd rather not be there and watch them win.
Favorite baseball sound? What's a home run sound like?
Cracking the bat.
How's it? She did?
The first one.
The first one, you want to watch them on television and
Watch
win?
them on TV.
Watch them on TV and win?
I'm gonna go for the experience. I would go there.
The experience.
It's not worth it when they lose.
You're breaking all these hearts.
100%. I want to be there.
You want to be there. They're going to lose.
That's okay.
You're breaking hearts. How about you?
I want to see them win.
You want to see them win, so you're going to be on television.
I'd rather watch it on TV.
Why is that?
Because I'd rather watch them win.
What's your favorite baseball noise? Crowd noise, noise from something?
Crowd noise, yeah.
What's it sound like? Home run.
Loud?
Like what?
Like you want me to yell?
Yes.
Oh,
What do you do when your favorite player hits a home run?
I yell, but...
Good grief. What's your biggest fan move? Like, how do you engage the home run? What do you do?
Well, my biggest fan move is during a hockey game when there was a scrum for the puck right in front of me.
Yeah.
And so I was like banging on the thing.
Yeah.
And
On your television?
I was on TV,
Oh.
and then the puck squirted away and they went in for a goal. So that night on all the sports channels, I was watching myself, this guy in his black jacket
sounds
banging
like
on the
awesome.
glass.
Like a gorilla dog.
It was awesome.
That sounds good.
What's your favorite noise from a baseball game?
The crowd roaring for a home run.
Crowd roaring. What's it sound like?
Loud.
My favorite noise is a batter, 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 a batter. Why don't they do that in the big leagues?
Well, hey, getting ready for winter sports, finishing up fall with CIF playoffs. And of course, with that being said, let's take a look at our football draw and catch up with our good friend, KTLA sports reporter Rahshaun Haylock, on his insights on the Division VI football playoffs. Rahshaun, thanks for being here.
Always a pleasure. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, of course, wouldn't have anybody else to break it down. We went into Friday's game. You know, I know Coach was looking at the divisions and where we could end up being, and we ended up losing Friday, dropped to Division VI. When looking at the football playoffs, do you still kind of like the way CIF is doing it?
It's tough, right? Because you got this point system, right? Which Slevy obviously is familiar with. You too, Coach. And I mean, you're right there on the cusp of D5, right? So I like it in a sense because it allows for more schools, more teams that ordinarily probably wouldn't be in a position to win a championship to now be in a position. But then I think the downside of that, or at least one downside of it, is something that people have talked about for these last couple of years now, especially because we've seen more of it, is the under 500 teams getting in, right? And that's a downer, right? And I understand competitive equity and this high school sports, this, that, or the other, but I mean, come on, like if you're 1-9, if you're Miracosta's 3-7 there in Division 6, right? Like, should you really be able to be in the playoffs? Have you really earned that right to compete for a championship? And I think back to Santa Margarita, a different sport, obviously basketball. They went 0-10 in League one year, and then they ended up winning their entire division. I think it was Division 3, Division 4, I believe. So it's tough, but I think it allows for more competitive equity in other divisions besides Division 1, right? Because I think we all know where that one is going. And so I think it's kind of allowing some of these other schools to be able to play for something. And so in the case of Cypress, all right, you're right there, Division 5, you lose, you fall to Division 6, now you're a 2 seed. How would you like to beat San Clemente yesterday morning, right? Like you're the 8, you got to go up against Bosco. You probably could have been the 1 in D2, but that South Coast champion historically has been a part of Division 1, right? And they made the cutoff this year at 8 teams. So, I mean, there's not going to be a perfect system no matter what you do, right? I think everybody's going to have a gripe with something, right? If Division 1 were 16 teams, people would have a gripe with that, because if your team 16, if your team 15, you're like, dude, we have no shot here. Like, why are we even doing this? And so I think it really sets itself up well, especially for those middle rounds or those middle divisions. You look at Division 2, Division 3, Division 4. I mean, you're looking at some pretty heavyweight matchups, and it's a little nostalgic for me in a sense, because it's like, all right, like this is what it should be in the sense of whoever's in has a shot, right? And that's not necessarily the case in some other divisions.
Yeah, it's I don't ever want to say coaches would throw a game or anything, but I know sometimes if you lose and you do drop and you become the higher seed in that next division down, you're not all that upset at the loss, right? We've talked about that. This time of year is always super fun, right? You get to the playoffs, but those wins and losses at the end do make a difference. And again, Cypress and D6, with that loss, we drop to the number 2 seed. We open up with Rio Mesa now. You know anything about Rio Mesa that maybe we don't know?
They got a couple dudes. You look at the quarterback, J.J. Bittner, 3-year starter and only a junior. But, I mean, this guy's accumulated 32 touchdowns so far this season. So he can hit you with his arms. He can hit you with his legs. Not getting a whole lot of Division I interest. He's got one offer from Nevada right now, but he's got decent size. So you would think maybe over the summer, maybe some other schools, may try to get a look at him. And you also got a guy in Chance Harrison who's an Arizona commit, and he didn't record any stats in their last game in the season finale. So not sure what that looks like from him, whether he was just out or was it precautionary, is an injury, or what's going on there. But that's another dude. He's a top receiver for them. For Rio Mesa. So I think with Bittner, though, especially, that makes it go. And so, I mean, you look at football now, and the game has just changed so tremendously, right? Where you just can't have those statues back there. And, you get you get a guy that can do both, and they can really take over a game, especially at this level. And then we saw it a lot last year with Aiden Houston, right? And even this year to an extent, but that's priority number 1, and he's wearing number 1 for Rio Mesa. So, if you're Coach Feldman and company, like, you got to know where he is at all times. Keep eyes on him at all times, because he is definitely a player that can hurt you.
All right, Ray. Last year, our theme in Division 4 was the quarterback. Last year, we had a long laundry list of excellent quarterbacks, and now you mentioned Rio Mesa's QB, and you can't be a statue back there. And you just mentioned Aiden Houston as well. He's obviously our guy. He's certainly not a statue. He can throw. He can run. He's tried to protect himself a little bit as the season's gone on with the shoulder injury. What does he got to do to keep us in the game Friday night and potentially make a run the next few weeks?
I think you kind of hit the time machine a little bit, right? Like it's been a little bit different this year. But I think what he did to get to the Division IV championship and set up that Aiden versus Aiden matchup, right? With Aiden Childs, who of course now is on at Oregon State. To get Cypress in that position, right? To be the MVP, to be the best player on the field every single week. Or if not the best player on the field, the most impactful player on the field. I think that's where it starts. And I think for the Cypress squad, I think you could be able to go as far as Aiden Houston will take you. And look, I know it's not quarterback versus quarterback, right? Like it wasn't Childs versus Houston last year in the D4 final. It's certainly not going to be, Houston versus Bittner on Friday night. But who can have a bigger impact on the field on Friday? I think that's going to be key. And it doesn't necessarily have to show itself from a number standpoint, right? Like you may not have to outgain Bittner, may not have to outrush him by any means, but definitely have to be impactful, right? Got to get other people involved. Got to definitely have your thumbprint, your fingerprint on this game. And if Aiden Houston can do so, I think it sets up nice for Cypress, and not only for Friday night, but on into the playoffs if you can get past this Rio Mesa squad.
Yeah, so if that happens, we get past Rio Mesa. Second round game would be Yucaipa or Miracosta. It looks like the pre-flips have us on the road for that game. Those schools typically have had good programs. With that, who do you have coming out of that game, who we could possibly play?
As much respect as I have for Miracosta, longtime head coach Don Morrow, who's there for years, and my first thoughts of high school football, me being a student at El Segundo High, and all of a sudden here comes big bad Miracosta rolling into town, and they got the golden domes and the sun is setting and the pink sky, and they just looked the part, right? And of course they just steamrolled us. And little as a freshman in high school, like this is sort of like my first look at what high school football is supposed to be. And they were a powerhouse during that time. They haven't been that in years. But for the love of everything good in high school football, they can't, right? Like Yucaipa has to win this game, right? Like you have to knock off. And look, I know the competition is a little bit different. There's a little bit more competition out in the South Bay, a little bit more athletes. Like I get all that. But 3-7, I mean, for that purpose only. And I'm not being a hater on Costa, and I'm not mad that they got rid of the golden domes and they're this ugly dark green now that they wear, but it just can't. It just can't happen. I think it has to be Yucaipa winning this game just for the integrity of the bracket, for the integrity of the postseason. And so for no other reason than that, I'm going to say Yucaipa. Although it would be good to see Cypress come to the South Bay and take on Miracosta. I wouldn't be mad at that.
That goes back to what you were saying, right? You got the 3-7 in there. Do they belong? Maybe, maybe not. But if the rankings work out, then this should be a good game, right?
And it's interesting because it's not every division, right? It's not all throughout the playoffs. But like I was reading something, from a coach saying like it could work in your favor if there's a certain pod, if there's a certain group of schools that you're similar to, or that your ratings match or close to, then that could happen. And I mean, we obviously we see that here with this Miracosta squad. So yeah, I mean, I just can't, coach. I mean, come on, 3-7. I mean, let's be, this is the playoffs, man. I mean,
All right, we're talking the playoffs, Rahshaun, and in Division 6, we got the number 1 seed Ontario Christian. There's schools like Hart and La Habra High School, historical powerhouse La Habra. Cypress had a couple battles with them. We came up short in 2009, 2010 in the playoffs. Who do you got when you look across the bracket, getting to the finals of Division 6, maybe winning it all, besides Cypress, of course?
Yeah, besides Cypress, of course. I mean, that's the big thing. I think it shapes up well for Cypress. You look at them. I mean, you look at maybe a Yucaipa or Miracosta coming up in the next round. I like Yucaipa in that one. I like Cypress to get past Yucaipa. You talk about La Habra, who's traditionally been well. Marietta Mesa, who is they play in a pretty tough league. You look out there in the Marietta Valley, you got Mesa, you got Valley, you got Mesa, you got Valley, you got Temecula, you got the big one,
Vista Marietta.
Vista Marietta. There you go. Escapes me right now. Vista Marietta. Rancho Verde has been a historical power throughout the years. But I'm going to have to go. This is tough. I want to say Hart in that top half of the bracket, just because the history there and they've been so potent. I may have to go chalk here, and say Ontario Christian and Cypress in the finals. This has to be the year of Aiden Houston, right? I mean, you got that far, you got so close last season. You went up against, a powerhouse in a sense in Downey, in which, I mean, that team was loaded last year. They had some straight up dudes. And you could argue they could have been in a higher division, right? As opposed to Division 4. But maybe that loss against Tustin on Friday night last week was a blessing in disguise for Cypress, and you're able to get there to the finals and knock off the number 1 seed. So I'm going to go. I hate to go against Hart, but I think I'm going to go chalk here.
All right. Well, hey, Ray, thank you for joining us. Thanks for your time and insight into this. We appreciate you. Appreciate you being on.
Thanks for having me. As always, go Cypress.
Thanks to our sponsors, Subs and Grubs and Coach's Corner. Make sure everybody gets out there, support those businesses for supporting us. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you all next week.